tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to continue with our lectures on Chittaja Rūpas. So far we have discussed about the functions that can be done with the help of Chittaja Rūpas, and we talked about deliberate voluntary actions and also instinctive reactions, which also need the support of Chittaja Rūpa, and also maintaining the bodily postures. Then we also talked about actions done as habits, habitual actions, and also the actions that are influenced by vasana of a living being, that are the tendencies left behind or that remains in the mind due to the defilements being present in our mind for a long time. And obviously that can be seen, vasana is found in every being's mind stream except that of a person who has attained the Samma Sambuddhahood. And each and every action of such a being who has not reached that level is constantly affected by vasana. And in some Arahants' life stories we can see how they have made the physical and verbal actions as to appear as they have been done by unwholesome minds. Then another very significant aspect in which Chittaja Rūpas are found is while performing physical activities with the help of psychic powers. Psychic power is something that is commonly discussed in the Eastern philosophy. The idea is mind can be trained and developed into a level so that a person is able to perform certain things that are beyond the scope of ordinary human beings. For instance, by developing this mind, now according to dualism, mind is another entity other than the physical body, and this mind has a great capacity to influence the body and make it to work, speak, which is to some philosophers which is counterintuitive, because how could a non-physical entity cause the movements in the physical body? Then some may ask the question, what about the energies? Energies are physical stuff. Energies are physical things. They are not non-physical stuff. So we are talking about a non-physical entity that is capable of making a change in the bodies, which is also against the idea of causal closure. So anyway, now according to dualism, mind is capable of influencing the body, so the body may move or act, physically act. Then the idea behind psychic powers is when the mind is developed into a higher level, when its capacity is expanded, it has the person gets the ability to do certain things that are beyond the ordinary human capacity. For example, when concentration is developed, one is capable of seeing the past lives, what happened before the birth of this life. And some are even capable of reading the others' minds, what the others are thinking. We are able to see what the others do with our eyes, but we are not able to penetrate into their mind and see as it is. But we can assume, looking into their behaviors, we can assume when someone is in anger or someone is in lust, if someone likes us or dislikes us, we can assume it looking into the physical features. That's possible. But here we are talking about reading the minds, means penetrating into it and seeing it as it is, like with a direct experience. So when the mind is developed to a very higher level of concentration, according to some philosophers, some teachings, it is capable of reading the other person's mind. Like someone is watching a movie or something, is able to read the mind. And then when the mind is developed to another very high level, another ability that is possible is to see the faraway objects that cannot be seen with our physical eyes staying at this place. For instance, today we know through internet and through television, we are able to see things what are happening in a faraway place live. We are able to do that. But there's a physical connection for this. But the idea behind psychic divine eye is one is able to see those things staying here without any physical involvement in any technology. So that is also a capacity of the consciousness. See faraway sounds, objects, and to listen to faraway sounds. It's done through the mind. To see the past lives, to read the others' minds. Some are also capable of understanding what would happen in future. Seeing the future is also possible. And what is the karma? Seeing the karma due to which someone is born. All these are possible with a trained mind. The main component of this psychic power is concentration. Because concentration gives the real energy to the mind and it strengthens the mind. Because when one is now imagine a beam of laser. When a beam of laser is pointed at one small area, it generates a huge power. Because all the rays are densed into a smaller surface, so it can generate a much greater power or force. So likewise, when the mind is well concentrated on a certain object, the entire mind like the Chittupada, Chitta Chetasikas are combined and densed into a smaller region of the smaller region means on one object. And when this capacity is developed, the mind becomes more and more powerful. More the powerful, more it can stay, longer it can stay, remain in the object. And then this concentration has to be trained in various ways. Visuddhimagga explains about 14 ways how this should be trained. Then the person gets the abilities to perform certain things, activities that cannot be done by ordinary human beings. So that is the idea behind psychic power. And today what we are going to talk is, among these psychic powers, a special ability is discussed under the topic of Iddhivida Jnana. Iddhivida is the capacity of doing physical activities which are impossible to be done under normal circumstances by an ordinary human being. Physical activities. One is capable of levitating. One is capable of going through a wall or a hard surface. So submerging into the water, submerging into the earth and going through the sky, changing your own appearance into a different form, and also influencing other physical objects like external, outside physical objects, and also creating new objects. So these are the scopes of this Iddhivida Jnana. So this Iddhivida Jnana is the most, it is said by some teachers, that the most difficult psychic power to develop. But psychic power involves various departments. Reading others' minds, which is not an easy task to be done. Reading the past life, seeing the past life of one's own self or someone else's. Looking into the future, understanding or knowing the karma by which someone is born, and seeing the faraway objects, listening to faraway sounds. So all these encompasses the capacity or the spectrum of psychic powers. The most significant out of them is the capacity to perform certain physical activities that cannot be done by ordinary humans under ordinary circumstances. So this Iddhivida Jnana, this is called Iddhivida Jnana. Iddhivida jnana. This also has a wider spectrum. Few aspects that can be done is levitating, traveling through air, traveling air or space, then changing one's figure, one's appearance, influencing external objects, and there are few more. Submerging into the earth, going through a physical object, all these can be done, as the literature says. I'm not aware of someone who can do this at the moment, but there are lots of stories, and the technique has been mentioned. In order to reach this level, one has to practice in this manner. First one needs to develop the concentration to a higher level, to the jhanas, and then that jhana concentration has to be trained in 14 ways. In Pali, we call this Chuddasa Vasi. Chuddasa is 14. Chuddasa Vasi. Mastery of the concentration in 14 ways. Only then this capacity can be achieved. Then what happens? What is the functioning happening here? In Patisambhida Magga, and also there is another very important department of this is creating a figure which is very similar to your own. Creating a figure which is very similar to one's own, which is called Manomaya Iddhivida Jnana. Venerable Chullapantaka was given the title of being foremost in this capacity. He could create similar figures like him and make them to do various activities. And Buddha is said to have done this while performing twin miracles in few occasions. That also falls under the Iddhivida Jnana. Then out of them, now what is the function explained? How this function is explained in Patisambhida Magga. The phrase has Sukha Sanyancha Lahu Sanyancha. There's a part in the phrase Sukha Sanyancha Sanya Lahu Sanya. These two words are quite important. Sukha Sanyancha Lahu Sanyancha Ijjanatte Panya. Ijjanatte means it happens. The person's desire happens. Now, a person who has psychic power wishes to levitate in the sky. Then he gets into his jhana and makes a determination. Just determining to levitate is not going to happen. There are some instances where these things were discussed in the literature by making determination based on truth. There are instances that one had levitated, which is a strange phenomenon, and there are some other instances that it could happen. But if someone is making it through psychic powers, for instance, if someone wants to levitate in the sky, so one has to go against the gravity, if you talk it in physical science, or you have to go through that space-time curve. You have to go against that, right? So that's how you start to levitate. But according to Theravada teachings, what is meant here is the body becomes light. The body becomes light, then it can be moved according to the desire of the person. So it's a slight different approach. So when one makes the body lighter and determines to fly, the body behaves according to the mind. So it has the capacity. The mind has the capacity to lift the body. In the beginning, it cannot be lifted because it's quite heavy. Now, in the bodies of divine beings, their body behaves according to their mind. So they are capable of traveling very fast and also to change their appearance. So they can deform their own Rūpa, which is not going to harm them. So they can change. They can squeeze their size. They can expand their size. based on their wish. So it's a very different phenomenon happening which is not seen in the human world. So here in the Iddhivida Jnana also what is happening is one's body is affected by the consciousness. Now when we are doing our physical activity, the same phenomenon happens. Now Chittaja Rupas with abundant Vayu arise in the specific body parts, and they make a pressure to the already existing body, so the body moves. I think we have discussed about this in few weeks, in several weeks. The actual movements happens not directly because of the mind. It happens because of the matter that is created by mind, and that matter contains more Vayu Dhatu, air element, and Vayu is capable of making a pressure onto the body, so the body moves. Body acts according to the mind, and that movement is determined or governed by the Kaya Viññati. There's an imprint, there's an influence of the consciousness on the Rūpa, so the Vayu Dhatu that is created by the mind behaves according to the consciousness, and eventually the body behaves according to the consciousness. So that's the mechanism. So that's the mechanism that happens in a day-to-day physical activities. But here there is an extra element needed. The person who determines the consciousness creates some Chittaja Rupas, and the body behaves according to that. That's obvious, that's possible. And at the same time, it changes the consciousness, that special mind changes the status of the body. And that this happens with a one mind moment. That's another special thing. Now in other day-to-day activities, lots of consciousness is necessary in order to move the body. It cannot be done with one consciousness. Many consciousnesses are required, and all these consciousnesses create Chittaja Rupas. Then as an accumulation of power, the body moves. But in the Iddhivida Jnana, what happens is the mind process, Bhavanga Chalana, Upacheda, then we have Manodvara Vajjana, Parikamma, Upachara, Anuloma, Gotrabhu, then we get Abhiññana, and we fall back into Bhavanga. This one consciousness is capable of doing this. This consciousness creates some Chittaja Rupas which are capable of making the mind to move, and it can happen very quickly because everything is done with one single consciousness. Then this Abhiññana Chitta, other than producing Chittaja Rupas, also affects the mind, affects the body actually, to be light, makes it light. It means the body, makes the body light. That is what is meant by the word Lahu Sanya. This Abhiññana Chitta is said to have the Lahu Sanya. It makes the body lighter. This Abhiññana Chitta belongs to the fourth jhana according to Abhidhamma. Fourth jhana is free Rūpavachara fourth jhana. In Abhidhamma terms, fifth jhana. It can be said as the fourth jhana or the fifth jhana based on the two methods we count the jhanas. So this jhana is very much purified from defilements. It doesn't have influence of any defilement. It is far away from the defilements. At the same time, it is free from gross jhana factors such as vitakka, vichara and so forth. It's free from jhana, some gross jhana factors. Even it is without piti. It doesn't have zest, and it doesn't have the joy even, the somanasa vedana or sukha vedana. It is free from that. So it's a serene mental state, one of the most serene mental states one can achieve in the world. Only it can be developed, the serenity can be increased by changing the object while going into the Arupavachara jhanas. So this Rūpavachara fourth jhana is accompanied with Upekha. Upekha is feeling, economous feeling, and is free from all the defilements and also gross jhana factors. As a result, the mind stream is very light because defilements makes our mind heavier. It makes our minds heavier. opposite quality of every wholesome or pleasant, sobana, beautiful mind is lahuta, chittassa lahuta, kaya lahuta, chitta lahuta, which makes the mind lighter. It's against qualities such as thinamidda and so forth, which makes the mind heavy. So when the mind is with defilements, it's quite difficult to work. Its speed reduces, and also it is felt as something heavy. That's why, and also it affects the body. When someone has lots of thinamidda, and it becomes very hard for us to work even. And even our body is affected by that. So every beautiful consciousness contains a quality called lahuta, and this quality is abandoned when the mind is free from defilements. Chaturtha jhana, fourth jhana, is not only free from defilements, is also free from gross jhana factors such as vitakka, vichara, piti and sukha. Therefore, the entire mind stream is very light at the moment, and this affects the body. This affects the body. So eventually, the body becomes light. Body becomes light. Then these chittaja rupas are also created by this consciousness. It is possible that chittaja rupas may also be produced by these consciousnesses. It's possible. But anyway, see this is what is mentioned in the books. So these chittaja rupas, now if the person wants to, for instance, if this is the person, his intention is to levitate. This creates chittaja rupas within the body. It's abhiññāna chitta. AB abhiññāna chitta. It has the intention of lifting the body. When chittaja rupas are created, these chittaja rupas are affected. These chittaja rupas with viññati, affected by, are governed, controlled by this abhiññāna, intention of the abhiññāna. At the same time, what happens is, this body is again affected by the abhiññāna to make it lighter. It makes the body light. Then, these chittaja rupas that are produced by the abhiññāna is capable of going against the, in physical terms, gravity or other way, it becomes light and starts to move according to the intention of the mind, according to the intention of the consciousness. So this is the mechanism which is happening here. So the body becomes lighter. What is now the change differences? Then one can ask the question, what is the difference between these kind of activities and activities done by us? The speciality is here, lahu sanya. It makes the body lighter. It makes the body lighter. On other occasions, such lightness is not necessary. We can still work. But here, the body is extra. Now, in other consciousnesses, with other consciousness, now in our day-to-day lives, chittaja rupas are produced and they cause the pressure and the body moves. Here, the same mechanism happens. Chittaja rupas are produced and they are moving the body. They are the ones who move the body. But here, what happens? A special thing is the lightness. So this abhiññāna chitta makes the body lighter, so it can work against the ordinary situation, against more than what an ordinary person does. So this is the difference here. So it changes the entire body, but because this is acting as a one unit, mind and the body are connected as a one unit. So that's why we normally get the perception of self-view, because the body works according to the mind. It is acting as a one unit, and we get the idea that there's a one person who is working, who thinks and works, who possesses this body, who possesses this mind. So it's considered as a one unit, and it works as a one unit. When the abhiññāna chitta arises, because of its purity from defilements and purity from gross jhana factors, it affects the entire body, and then the chittaja rupas that are produced by this abhiññāna chitta is capable of doing the activities as desired. This is the main idea of this explanation. Then it is said, I couldn't give you the English handout actually. I'll try to send it next time. When these things like these activities are done, the mind also has a quality called Sukha Sanya. Sukha Sanya here doesn't mean the fourth jhana is associated with a blissful or a joy feeling. No. Sukha Sanya means it is so serene. The consciousness and the mind stream is very serene due to the pure upekha vedana found in abhiññāna chitta. This chitta is associated by a very pure feeling, undefiled feeling and also unaffected feeling. This feeling has transcended the joy and also the unpleasant feeling, domanassa and somanassa, and also pain and the bliss, or pain and the pleasant feeling. Sukha and dukkha, all are overcome. Upekha is something that transcends. It doesn't mean that every upekha has that level, because for instance, the low mula chitta also has upekha, but that upekha is not serene. Here, this upekha is attained through a spiritual practice, giving up or even the spiritual bliss or the joy. So this upekha is very much pure. This is very serene. This serenity of this consciousness is refers to as sukha here. Sukha doesn't imply that Vedana of the fourth jhana is pleasant, or it doesn't mean it is the joy. No. It is a serene feeling. That serenity is expressed through the word sukha. Sukhasming panya. Now, when the Buddha has divided all the types of Vedana is one fall in terms of experiencing the taste of the flavor of the object. Taste in the flavor of the object. But Vedana is threefold based on how it is felt, how it is tasted, how the flavor is tasted or felt. Sukha, dukkha and upekha. It means joy of unpleasant feeling or pain, joy, pain, or pleasant feeling, pain, and neither pleasant, no unpleasant feeling. Then sometimes Buddha has divided or categorized Vedana into two categories. The two categories are Sukha and Dukkha. In this categorization, Upekha falls under Sukha. Why is it? Because of its serenity. Because of its serenity. So Upekha is put into the Sukha category in that sense. So Patisambhida Magga, the Upekha fourth jhana is also said to have the Sukha Sanya. Is not because the joy is present there, because of the serenity of the equanimous feeling. Then what happens? Because of this effect of this Lahu Sanya, this Upekha feeling, or we can say the entire mind, is free from defilements and also free from gross jhana factors. This affects the body to become light like a piece of cotton, then it can be moved according to the desire of the consciousness or the intention of the consciousness. Then, yes. So, this lightness, according to the explanations, now one more thing to be said, this lightness doesn't happen only because of the abhiññāna chitta. Now, when someone enters into the abhiññāna, first he has to go into the fourth jhana, a padaka jhana. Bhavanga chalana, bhavanga upaccheda, manodvara vajjana, parikamma, upachara, anuloma, A or NU, it doesn't matter, gotrabu and jhana. He has to remain in the jhana for some time, then gets out, bhavanga. This jhana is also the fourth jhana. Or the way it's the fifth jhana. This fourth jhana also affects the body, it lightens the body. Then one gets into the determination. Abhiññāna, bhavanga. So this abhiññāna creates chittaja rūpa. This also lightens the body. Is the fourth jhana. Lightens the body. So before one enters into the jhana, lightening has happened from the attainment. One enters before determining with abhiññāna. Before determining with abhiññāna. So lightening has happened in two occasions. During the padaka, this is the base concentration. Padaka jhana. This is the abhiññāna. So lightening happens. The body is lightened already before he make the determination, right? Before he determination. So therefore, after this lightening has happened, with the intention, with the determination, with the abhiññāna, the body starts to move. Then it is said there can various activities can be done, traveling through the sky, going through, and some other additional determinations also need to be made in doing some activities. For example, if someone wants to go through a wall, for instance, one needs to attains the akasa kasina and creates a hollow in the wall. So only then he can go through that. If one wants to submerge or goes into the earth, one has to get into the apo jhana and creates a water in this area. Then he can submerge in the water, in the earth. When one wants to walk on the earth, walk on the sky, one first needs to get into the patavi jhana, patavi kasina, and creates the earth on the sky. Then he ascends to this and starts walking on it. So likewise, some other kasinas or preliminary acts also are necessary to be done in order to perform some other activities. So the spectrum of abhiññāna is very broad, especially the iddhavida jnana, and Visuddhimagga explains about what are the necessary, what type of kasinas should be attained in order to perform this iddhavida abhiññāna. And it is said by the Buddha himself in Kevatta Sutta of Digha Nikaya, by practicing mastering a science called Gandhari. Gandhari. One is capable of performing certain activities that are done by iddhavida jnana. And its sub-commentary says there are two other such science called Chula Gandhari and Mahagandhari. Chula Gandhari and Mahagandhari. So by doing the Chula Gandhari, a person who died 3 years ago, it is by performing this science, one is capable to know the birthplace of someone who died 3 years ago. Which is a strange science. I don't know whether these science exists today. So it can be done, it says. Then by practicing a science called Mahagandhari, one can know the rebirth of a being, rebirth. And also he is capable of doing certain things like a magician or wizard, like a wizard. So it says that these are possible. These are possible to be done even without the psychic powers. So that's why Buddha said there are 3 ways one can. There's another extra information. Now, before that, so these things can be done with these science as well. I'm not able to give the exact mechanism based on Abhidhamma how it works, but surely the mind is involved. These science mostly needs some spiritual practice. Obviously, as far as I know, you cannot just study something and do such thing, but they need to master their mind to some extent. But it is not necessary to develop the consciousness into jhana levels. A person who has defilements, after mastering this science, will be able to do such things. Now, Venerable Vangisa is said to be capable of knowing the rebirth, the where place someone was born, by knocking at the skull. If he is given the skull of a certain being, after knocking it, he could say where he was born, and this was tested in front of Buddha according to the commentaries. Then Buddha confirmed that the person that Vangisa was telling the truth, and his predictions were accurate. His assumptions were accurate. And then he was provided with the skull of a Arahant, and when he knocked at it, he was unable to exactly say where the person was born. So then he still wanted to know where the person was born. Then Buddha said, in order to know that, you have to become a monk and practice. Then in order to know that technique because he knew that he couldn't cover the entire spectrum of humans, because there are that human's rebirth he could not find, and he thought it's better to find the place where he was born, and then he entered into the sasana in order to master these techniques. But eventually he ended up being Arahant, being an Arahant, eradicating all the defilements, and also became one of the chief disciples, one of the main disciples of the Buddha, one of the Mahasavakas. So the existence of such techniques were reported, and in India, yes, in some places we still hear certain special capacities practiced by some human beings. Then also by practicing these kind of techniques, some other techniques, one is able to know the mind of someone else as well, because there are 3 ways one can remove the defilements or increase faith in someone else. So these are called patiharya. Patiharya means removing the obstacles. Patiharya. By doing all these psychic powers, we remove the doubt of someone. That's what Buddha did. When the society was having doubts whether to follow the other religious ascetics or Buddhism or the Buddha, then Buddha had to eventually perform the twin miracle in order to dispel the doubts of the others. So patiharya means you dispel the doubts and defilements of others and makes them better human beings. So there are 3 ways that this can be done. They are called Iddhi Patiharya. Then we have Adesana Patiharya. Then Desana Patiharya. By performing psychic powers, yes, one can convince other beings. Adesana Patiharya is reading the other's mind. If someone is capable of telling what I am thinking, I get astonished, right? Because how could you know that? Because it's a subjective experience that is only unique to, it is only a secret world. How can someone else knows what I'm thinking? Then you feel like you are very insecure. So some people are capable of doing this, Adesana Patiharya. For example, when Buddha was born and Buddha was alive in the world, it seems like things are not secret, because we assume that the devas are able to see us, but as long as we don't see them with our naked eyes, we are not much bothered about them. But if you get to know that there is a person who can read your mind, then it makes us a little bit uncomfortable. We know that whenever we think something, the person is capable of reading the mind. It's something that we have to think. If someone is there who can actually read our minds, then we become more restrained, and also we feel a little bit stressed by that. Then Desana Patiharya is the preaching of Dhamma. You convince others by preaching something, expounding something, convincing them through a doctrine, like through teaching. So Buddha said, with all these 3, you can influence a person and also bring someone into the correct view and dispel their delusion to some extent, and also dispel their doubts and get them out from unwholesomeness. But the thing is, these first 2 can be done by training certain sciences. For instance, by practicing Gandhari, one can perform certain psychic activities against the normal human capacity. By practicing another science, which the name I forgot actually, one is capable of reading others' mind. There is a technique of doing that. We don't know, we don't have much information how that can be done, but Buddha said, yes, there is such a technique by which you can read others' mind. And also you can perform certain psychic powers, show psychic powers by doing some science. The Desana Patiharya is you preach the Dhamma, you explain the Dhamma and then convince the other. So Buddha always praised these two because both of them can be done either through our own practice with your own capacity of developing concentration or by learning or mastering a science. That also becomes your capacity, but it's something that can be done even without removing your defilements. Then personally what I feel is the transformation that happens through these two is mainly becoming surprise. There's a surprise element in it, that you get astonished by someone else doing something extraordinary. So the faith that arises seeing such patiharya is something based more rely on the external, what is happening outside. So when someone, for example, if I am devoted to some religious teacher because he could fly or he could do some special activity. Yes, it's a special. It is indeed a very special capacity. But if he happens to lose that for some extent, for some reason, then my faith will be shaken. I may say he had that capacity, but he doesn't have it now. Adesana Patiharya. Also something like, it is something that is on the other side. We rely upon the other person's capacity in our faith. But with the Desana Patiharya, what happens is, when this person preaches the Dhamma, the doctrine, a transformation happens within ourselves because we get the faith towards the preacher only when we understand what he preaches. Only when we are convinced by what he teaches. So conviction happens, understanding happens, then there's a self-transformation within ourselves. There's an inside transformation. On the other two occasions, we are surprised by what is happening outside, and we are just surprised by what we see, what we experience, what we happen to meet or see. So this is, the reliance is mostly outwards. But in Desana Patiharya, if someone is convinced by a doctrine or a preaching, is mostly what happens is there is an inside transformation happening in the listener. And that faith is more reliable and more solid because he has the faith on the preacher, because he understands and he is convinced about what he said. And there is some kind of independency in there. In the other two, they are more dependent on the other side. I'm happy about the person as long as, or because he can do such a thing. He can fly, he can read my mind. But here, I get convinced because I understand what he means. I myself got understood what he means. Because sometimes there are instances when we start to appreciate a preacher who speaks something deep and we didn't understand that. Yes, that's not a real appreciation. Only the real appreciation comes when someone understands. That's why in sutras, Buddha, many people used to say, after you listening to your talk, it seems like something which was put upside down I could see it now. So it's turned back. And it was like lighting a lamp to a person who is in the darkness, or showing the path to someone who is lost. So now I can see what you feel, and then they get the faith. But that is not to say that these techniques were not used. Buddha himself has used them, and he has even asked his disciples to use that. When Devadatta took 500 disciples of the Buddha, the newly ordained ones, Sariputta and Moggallana went and brought them. It is said that Venerable Moggallana used Iddhipatiharya and Desanapati. He preached the Dhamma at the same time, used psychic powers. And Venerable Sariputta used Adesanapatiharya. He read the others' minds and told what they are thinking, and then preached the Dhamma. So they both chief disciples were using all these three techniques to convince them. And there are instances the Buddha has said some disciples, Venerable Sagata, to perform extra psychic powers to convince the other person. In Pilindavacha's case, he refuted, he said, because people were coming and asking him to, when he took the patta in the Rajagaha, and the people were asking, they didn't see anything, so please perform some psychic powers. And when he was doing it in every township, and Buddha dispraised it because it's not something that is worthy doing like that. And then he promulgated a training rule, monks should not perform psychic powers. That is not for every psychic power, that is just the Vikubvana Iddhi, that is transforming your own body into another figure. For example, monk is allowed to fly in front of others, and he is allowed to perform psychic powers to convince others even. That's possible. But Buddha doesn't praise it much, because what he wants the disciples to preach Dhamma and convince others. But if someone is required to perform Iddhividha, yes, it can be done, and even it was done by some monks and the request of certain devotees. When Chitta Guhapati requested Venerable, if I remember, Isidatta or someone, to perform a psychic power, he did it. He performed it, and he got more faith in that person. So it is possible, and Buddha once asked Venerable Sagatha to do a psychic power, especially in order to impress the devotees who had come to meet. He said, in order to increase their faith, please do more psychic power, perform psychic powers, and he did it, and they got more faith in him. And finally, when Sagatha respected to the Buddha, the entire faith was a devotion came towards him, because they knew if the disciple could do this, and what is the capacity of the teacher. And what was prohibited by Buddha is Vikubvana Iddhi. Vikubvana Iddhi means transforming the monk's form into another. For example, a monk is not allowed to change his appearance into an elephant or into a tiger or a lion, because personally it creates a huge misunderstanding. For instance, if a monk used to travel in the city in the appearance of an elephant, this creates a huge dilemma, because people don't know how to treat him, whether to worship him or to pay respect him. For example, if a upajjhaya teacher monk is in a form of an animal or a layperson, how could the disciples treat him? It also creates lots of misunderstanding, and monks can be misunderstood, because so even if it is done by a highly spiritual grown person, this creates a huge problem within the sasana as well. And there's lot of misunderstanding, and people may even blame the person for treat him like an animal, and then they may accumulate a lot of akusala kammas, or if they chase him away, so this can lead to huge problems. So Buddha's prohibition of psychic powers is not about performing ordinary psychic powers. It's exclusively to the transforming one's own body into another figure. That's what has been prohibited. But there are instances, stories that monks had done it in few occasions. In the commentarial stories, when Mahamoggallana was taming the Nandopananda, he took the figure of a Garuda, and Venerable Sumana Samanera, when he was taming the snake, he took the appearance of a Brahma. There are few instances where, and also Venerable Sanghamitta, when bringing the Bodhi tree to Sri Lanka, chased away the Nagas in the form of a Garuda. So a few occasions are there where they went again. It means they have changed their figures. So it's a very huge question whether they were breaching the rule, or whether those stories were added in the commentaries, or some information were added later on, or Moggallana's case, was it done before the rule was enacted. But Sanghamitta's case is something very, very serious, because she lived 200 years after the Buddha, and it is said in the books that she transformed herself into a Garuda to chase away the Nagas. And but then one can ask whether the rule is only for monks, but normally it is, to my understanding, it is considered as something rule that is applicable to both the monks and nuns. Anyway, so there are some rules that are some stories in which monks have changed their figures into other forms, but in the Buddha's teachings, after the Pilindavacha's incident, it was prohibited. So this is something extra information for your knowledge. And yes, so the takeaway message is so psychic activities are done with the help of Chitta Rupas produced by Abhiññāna Chitta. Extra point is, other than what is the speciality than the other activities, the body is made to be lighter, by the fourth jhana and also by the abhiññāna citta because of its lightness, free purity from defilements and gross jhana factors. Yes, so this also is the under the topic of Chittaja Rūpa. So I conclude the lecture, giving the opportunity to ask questions.
May I ask my question?
Yes. Yeah.
My question is, I have read in a commentary story, one ascetic cursed at another ascetic. He wanted to get that other ascetic's skull broken into 7 parts. And last, he understood the extent of that disaster and he wanted to avoid it. And he stopped the raising of or dawning of sun rays. The entire area was dark. And my question is whether he is not, as the story goes on, he is not an arhat or noble one. He is only an ascetic. Is it possible ascetic to do such powerful things in Avijñā Chittas?
Yeah, it's not something unique to Arahants. It can be done by any person who develops the samatha meditation to and get the abhiññāna. Possible. These powers are not confined to the sasana. It can be done by ascetics even. Because when you get into the jhana level and abhiññāna level, the defilements are suppressed. Nivarnas are suppressed, not eradicated. So with this suppressed mind, mind by which the mind stream in which the defilements are suppressed, yes, such activities are possible.
Clear. Thank you.
Taking from Kamal's question, that incident he explained really happened to Maggavihari Thera. Okay, so Maggavihari Thera really he got scared with the threat, and then he had been helped by the deities that Lord Buddha is now living and you should consult him to get an explanation or rather relief from that fear which was created in his mind, and that led to, we know, those highly noble monks of the disciples of Maggavihari. They became highly noble monks subsequently, and Parayana Varga is written on that. So, really speaking, at that stage, that particular ascetic would have only made a verbal threat without really being able to do anything about it. But my question is really, now, the way it helped Bhavaratasa and his disciples is very, very interesting. And what are your comments about it?
I didn't understand the question. Like there was this is different story from what Mr. Kamal told. Kamal's story was about Devala Tapasa and Narada Tapasa. Bodhisattva stopped the rising of the sun because someone else cursed him, and then the Bodhisattva said, "It may the curse fall on the actual person who is actually at fault." And then he knew that with the sunrise, his head will break. So in order to prevent him from dying, the other person dying, he stopped the sunrise. Bhavari's case, one person cursed him that may your head break or burst. And then he got afraid of his curse, and then he was very worried. And the deity calmed and told him that you could consult the Buddha and inform who he is. And then he led his disciples to ask the disciples to go to the Buddha and have the discussion. And this ended up everyone being arahants. So yes, what's the question?
Yeah, the question is there are 10 iti explained in Revukani Hamdu's Abhidharma Marga. So in that one, he talks about Jnana Viparidhi and Samadhi Viparidhi. So is such a thing that helped Bhavari because according to that Jnana Vipariti, if person is due to retain arhatship during that life, nothing can really kill him. Nothing can terminate his life. So that's how Rūpa Swami explains Jnana Vipariti. So is that the kind of thing that helps Bhavari or what?
No, it was like commentators say that the curse was not going to work on him. It was not an actual like he was just afraid of the curse. That's all. It was not a curse. Like other person's story was like Devala Tapasa actually cursed on Narada, and that curse was very strong because it was done on a person who had psychic powers. Devala didn't have that psychic power. Then Narada said, because they were sleeping in the same room, and somehow Narada happened to step on Devala's head twice. So that's why he made the curse. Then he said, because Devala Tapasa Narada was very careful to see where the other person was sleeping, but somehow Devala Tapasa changed the postures, changed the location. So Narada happened to step on him. That was the incident. So it was actually the person who changed the locations at night was at fault. So Narada Tapasa said, may the curse fall on someone, the person, on him the actual fault is. So then he found out with his psychic powers, when the sun is going to rise tomorrow, Devala's head is going to break into 7 pieces. So then he knew that actually is going to happen. So that's why he stopped the rising of the sun, as the commentary says. But in the Bhavari's case, it was just a curse done by some person. Then Bhavari was afraid that by a person or a deity, I forgot actually. Then Bhavari was afraid that it would act, but it is not an actual curse. Nothing was going to happen to him. And because he was very afraid of the curse, then he lost his calmness. So that's how a deity came and said, you go to the Buddha, and so you will be able to get rid of this fear. So Jnana Vipariti is something different, because if the examples are given of Venerable Bhikku and Sankicca, they came into a situation that they would eventually, if it happened to someone else, they would have died. Bhikku was swallowed by a fish. Sankicca's mother died while he was in the womb. So any other being who would have encountered this situation would surely die. If we are swallowed by some animal, that's the end of our life. And if the mother dies, the fetus would not survive. So, but all these, both of them survived. The commentators say the reason was they were destined to be arahants in that life. Bhavari also would have been destined surely, but he was not in a situation where he would lose the life. It was just a curse made by someone else, and he was just afraid. So in order to remove his fear, the Deva said, there is a person called Gautama, Siddhartha Gautama, so go and meet him. He has attained the full enlightenment. Then Samadhi Vipariti is due to Nirodha Samapatti. While someone is in Nirodha Samapatti, the strange phenomenon happen. Nothing happens to his body. Nothing can harm his body. Fire, flood, weapons, nothing can harm. Even he makes a determination or not. It's a natural protection that is given to the attainer while he is in the Nirodha Samapatti, cessation of Vedana and Sanya. So these are the two. I don't think that there's a relationship in that, because Bhavari's case was not a serious one. It was just him becoming afraid of the other's words.
Okay, thank you very much, and much merits to you, sir.
Okay, there seems no questions, so we can conclude the class. Next day we are going to talk another aspect of Chittaja Rupas, their functioning. So thank you for listening, and may this merit of discussing Dhamma help us to attain our aspirations. May we grow in Dhamma and practice, and may this help to the sustaining of the Buddha Sasana. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.